Ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, there's a gentleman at Washington High School that is a living legend in professional wrestling. He's a 5-time United States heavyweight champion, 11-time United States tag team champion. Can we have a big round of applause for the great Pepper Gomez, ladies and gentlemen?
First time I met him was at Bay Area Wrestling when my dad had Bay Area Wrestling going, and Kurt would come down to the TV tapings. He'd be up there yelling at the wrestlers. It was great working for him. All the years I've been working with him, I think Kurt was the greatest promoter here in the Bay Area. He brought in so much talent.
You guys watching Big Time Wrestling?
He took Bay Area wrestling and he's seen where it was at, and he's seen how the Bay Area needed something out here, because we needed some wrestling, and he took it and he ran with it, and I'm glad that it was him that did that.
He brought big time wrestling together. He rescued wrestling in the Bay Area and brought that back from the Roy Shires era, and always had a great connection to the past. And he and I shared reverence for the Cow Palace and our childhood and the wrestling that we saw growing up. And we always tried to put on a show that reflected those values.
Anyway, it's a pleasure to be back here, pleasure to be back with Kurt, Time Wrestling. They do a wonderful job for you guys. They always have. Big round of applause.
He really changed the scene. Before that, independent wrestling was very narrow. He brought in name stars and to compete.
Introducing first, the irresistible Jason Solow.
I was given a great opportunity. I mean, I wrestled every single name that came through in those years. I was always in a good spot, and I could never repay Kirk enough for that. Yeah.
In my mindset, I didn't think that even being a referee or being on TV was possible for me. In 2009, I got a call from WWE. So they had me come down to do a tryout. Here's a contract, and I agreed to it. Kirk, once again, we're good for life, man. I love you, man.
He saw so much potential in so many people and allowed us to apply our craft and learn our trade and practice our art. And he also created a venue for people to interact with the history of the business as well. He had a reverence for the history of the business, and he brought in tons of old timers. So it was really cool to kind of have that passing of the torch, the passing of knowledge of the business down.
If you told me when I was maybe, let's say 12 years old in 1999, that in about a decade or 15 years later, I would get to go in the ring, refereeing names like, Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, the franchise Shane Douglas, Tommy Dreamer, the Hurricane. I mean, this was stuff that, I would have dreamed. He gave opportunities to guys not only inside that wrestling school that trained in big time wrestling, but people outside of big time wrestling.
Fans loved BTW for years, 25 years. They were loyal to Kirk. Kirk was the best. Kirk was absolutely the best. Things that I'm grateful for is that he introduced me to my wife, So Kirk was a great friend, a very special guy. Very special to me and my family, and I missed him a lot.
Tonight, we pay tribute to Kirk White. I first want to say thank you, Kirk. Thank you for being a great promoter. Through your hard work and determination, you have built BTW to what it is today. You have given everyone a place to call home. and you have given a place for everyone to shine.
Kirk was always awesome with me. He certainly got a very good reputation and quite an encomium from my uncle Bret Hart, who worked with him for years. And my dad had worked for him a little bit. That was great to kind of break my teeth and get my start in the independent circuit with big time wrestling. And through that, Kirk was awesome with introducing me to other promoters around the US that he was familiar with. And Kirk always made sure I got my deposit and there was no BS.
We're outdoing ourselves every time BTW and Sports Annihilation is bringing the best of hardcore.
There's not too many wrestling promoters anywhere that you can call honest. And one thing I can always say about Kirk White is Kirk always was honest with Ron Head. He always paid me everything he promised. He often bonused me out. And I always had a good time announcing, commentating, instigating for Kirk White and big time wrestling and all the Bay Area fans. Always had a great time, and I'll miss Kirk White.
And to show you the promoter he is, a lot of promoters ain't like this, and a lot of wrestlers that have been around in this business are going to tell you the same thing. He comes up to me before a show, and he has a briefcase and he taps on it. And I go, do you need me to sign something, Kirk, or what's going on? And he goes, nah, brother, I just want to let you know that I already got your payday. I already got your cash. He wanted to make sure everybody was taken care of, for that way the boys would always have a place to go back and a place to rely on.
Kirk was the first promoter I worked for, so I felt, now looking back at it, maybe I was a bit spoiled with Kirk, because Kirk paid me my very first match. There was like 500 people in the crowd. And then once I branched out of big time wrestling and started wrestling other places in the US, the crowds are very small. Sometimes promoters would promise you they'd pay you whatever it is, and come end of the show, you can't find the promoter. Kirk never did that to me or anybody. So he was always very, very good to work with.
He ran such a tight ship. And he's very professional. It's funny, me and the Ballards would always joke about this. At least one time on every show for 30 seconds to a minute, Kirk would absolutely lose his on somebody or something. And anytime we heard that, or the times that we actually saw it, we'd kind of just lean back thank God it's not us that's on the wrong side of this. And then once Kirk would leave, we would kind of snicker to ourselves because it was so funny, because it was so out of character for him, because he was such a sweetheart of a guy.
Everybody who works for him gets yelled at least once, just once, but a good screaming. You mess up on this, you didn't do that. And I've heard it with other people, but he was very serious about his work. He went over everything with the guys. He wanted everything just right. And he had a lot of good help. He had a lot of people behind the scenes that you don't know about.
It's a big old family. It's just a big family to me. I'm not proud what big time wrestling has done. The ring, the WWE ring, Kirk gave this to me. He asked me, you're part of the family, even though you're not a wrestler, you're in the family with big time wrestling.
Kirk was an amazing mentor, and I picked up so many leadership tips just under his guidance. Those tips gave me the confidence that I needed to be the badass that I am here at my job.
In life, everybody is looking for opportunities to better their life, opportunities to better their career. And when I was a kid, I wanted to be a professional wrestler. But, of course, physically that wasn't possible for me, as you can see. So I thought maybe I could be a commentator. But then I thought, wait a minute, where do you go to school for that? In 2005, enter Kirk White. He gave me an opportunity to become a commentator. And I've been with the company ever since.
My first experience in both TV broadcasting and pro wrestling was through Kirk White. In around 1997-98, my high school friends and I were taking TV courses at this TV studio in Newark, California. And Kirk White would come in and do commercials. He eventually started doing TV shows there as well.
This is a light heavyweight match, and by any means, this man is not in the right weight requirement.
Kirk White always
would let us interview the wrestlers that he would bring. So like a Val Venus, D'Lo Brown, Al Snow, Bret Hart, The Undertaker, and the list goes on and on.
I always felt so privileged to be working for Kirk, someone who's so well established, someone who puts out such a great product, someone who always brought in people for me to work that were going to take care of me, and even, you know, giving me the opportunity to lead some of our students. He was just proud. He was like a father figure.
I didn't even realize how much time, you know, every single week, I talked to him on the phone and saw him at practice, and like, I didn't even realize how much time I had spent with him over the last 5 years. He's gonna be missed. He's definitely gonna be missed. His legacy is gonna live on. There's Kirkisms that are gonna last, you know, for the rest of our lives.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Don.
Every single show afterwards, pretty much at least 3/4 of the locker room and the help would meet and we would all have a meal together, and oftentimes we'd also meet for breakfast. So it was a really very family oriented when we would do that. Very he ran a tight ship, and everybody respected him for that.
Is almost every match, especially if it was with Jason Styles or Shane Kody, but we'd always make our way towards Kirk. Because one of our goals, me, Shannon, and Frankie Kazarian, we said one of our wrestling goals was to get Kirk in a 6-man tag. And sure enough, no matter what, he'd always lay in a chop. And then once I got thrown in the ring, I would look at him and I could see he had that little smirk on his face. So, I mean, those are one of the things that I always remember about how he was.
One thing I will miss the most about Kirk was his enthusiasm and joy for pro wrestling. You can see it when you walk in the door and shake his hand. You can see it how his attitude in the back. You can see it during the shows. The fact that he sat around and watched every match on a show, you know, after all these years is amazing to me. I remember after a show one day, I got tagged in a video, and I opened the video, and it's a video of me, and I hit the ropes. I do a big dive out on the bike club, and in the video you can see Kurt sitting in his seat ringside, and when I land after the dive, Kurt jumps out of his seat. And I think that's amazing for someone to, you know, still have that after all those years.
The legacy that Kirk White is going to leave in wrestling in the Bay Area is just having a consistent show and consistent promotion that people can count on. Like, I always looked forward to coming to the shows as a fan, and then when I was wrestling, I always knew I could count on being on Kirk's show and that it was going to be there. And my family loved coming, my friends loved coming. I'd have 20 people, and the thing that really, for me as a woman, there's no other girls training at the time, and so I had nobody to have matches with, and Kirk would have to bring girls from Southern California or from, you know, all over just to wrestle me, to make sure that women were represented in the Bay Area. And to me, that's a big, like, I would do anything to make sure that wrestling stays alive in the Bay Area, because he works so hard to make it so special for a lot of people.
But I appreciate a lot of the people that, you know, that helped me through my career, and Kirk has always been really good.
I know that there was very few men that really loved wrestling the way Kirk White did, and I was privileged to get to meet Kirk many years ago, and we bonded together and became very good friends. He became somebody that maybe one of my most trusted friends I ever had, and somebody that I just enjoyed every single day, and I miss him so much, and I know that anyone that ever met him will appreciate what a good guy he was, what a good-hearted man he was, what a great family man he was. I know that Lori and Taylor are really feeling it just like I am, and above all, he always did his best to give everyone a really great show and to give everyone a family show. He had certain beliefs about what wrestling was, and I believe in those same beliefs that Kirk did. And I know that he's going to put on a great show for everybody, even though he's not going to be there for it. He's going to make sure that it's a good show. And I know that Lori and Taylor and everyone else that's working on this memorial show for Kirk is going to give it 100%, because it's probably the most important show and most important way that we can show appreciation for what a great man he was.
Tonight we are here to honor and celebrate my husband, Kirk White, Big Time Wrestling owner and promoter. This show is the last show that Kirk put together, so instead of canceling it, we decided that the show must go on for him. We couldn't think of a better way to celebrate the man who put so much of his hard work, dedication, and heart into making BTW a very successful promotion for over 25 years. Thank you to the great BTW fans for your support over the years. Without you, none of this is possible. To the BTW family, past and present, we thank you for your loyalty and dedication. We hope you know how proud Kirk was of all of you for each of your successes. He was grateful also for each of the friendships he formed with you. He gave you a place to live out your dreams, wrestle with the best in the business, and a chance to meet your heroes. But I truly believe he was living and fulfilling a dream of his own. Kirk was silly, funny, very sarcastic, caring, loving, and he had a heart of gold. He was one of a kind, and my daughter and I want to thank everyone for their love, support, and generosity during this extremely difficult time. It means so much to us.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending. Please hit the mailing list for the next upcoming events. For the next 20 minutes, the wrestlers will be out in the foyer.